but to give you an idea of how bad the winds were overnight, there are bricks like this one left behind all over the parking lot. Officials think there will be a fairly high turnout for a primary race. Westbound traffic on the Lloyd is scheduled to be down to just one lane today. Then the winds were so bad that it actually caught another house on fire across the street. And they're saying they are still considering this a rescue effort. The clip-on cameras pick up where dash cams leave off. They can be useful for deputies who are approaching a scene and need to gather evidence or do impromptu interviews. We're live in Evansville. Laura Forbes, 14 News.
NBC's Laura Forbes is covering this story for our affiliate WFIE. So Laura, with a good afternoon, what's the latest there?
Well, Alex, we had heard that too, that Senator Mitch McConnell had announced on the Senate floor that one of these miners has died. However, we just wrapped up a press conference here at the mine with mine safety officials as well as Governor Steve Beshear, and they're saying they are still considering this a rescue effort for both of those miners. They say they did locate one miner, but they weren't able to get any kind of response from him. We have learned their names as well, 27-year-old Justin Travis and 28-year-old Michael Carter. They say what happened is they got to a point where they could see one of those miners. They don't know which one it was, but they had to pull back because the surface was so unstable. They say rocks were actually falling on them, and because of concerns for the rescuers, they had to pull back. So they couldn't get any response from him again. They could see that miner, but because of those rocks, they couldn't get any indication of his condition. So again, they're saying they're operating under the hopes that one or both of them is still alive, and they are considering this a rescue effort, not a recovery effort. This happened at about 10 o'clock last night, so they have been underground for some time now, and they say they're about 880 feet under the ground, so they say it could take a long time to get to them. Alex, back to you.
Rescue rather than recovery at this point. That's good news. NBC's Laura Forbes, thanks so much.
92-year-old Evelyn Stone was just 6 when the tri-state tornado ripped through her town of Griffin.
My mother washed for people, and she had hung out a lot of clothes that day. When the wind started blowing, she called for us girls to come and help her. We didn't have any idea. We'd never heard of a tornado. Well, it's more or less a dream to me.
More than the storm itself, she remembers the devastation it left behind. Evelyn says her house was suddenly in a different spot.
Turned it around like that, off its foundation, and set it over there in the garden, where we had a garden.
Evelyn's dad was working at a gas station here in Griffin when the tornado hit. He was injured and taken to the hospital, but it took 3 days for them to find out where he was.
We just thought that God had took him up in the sky.
Her house was put back where it was and is still standing today. It's something Evelyn can't explain.
Nowadays, it's not hard to move a house or a building. But what did they do back there? Because all they had was horses.
In the meantime, her family stayed in another house nearby.
I walked in the door, I saw a baby laying on it was either a table or a sewing machine or something, is in the hallway. And I never did find out who that baby was. It was dead.
That baby was one of 70 people in southern Indiana who were killed on that day, a day that still haunts Evelyn.
Well, I just almost go to pieces when a high wind or black cloud.
The remaining survivors of the tornado can't forget its terror, even 85 years later. In Griffin, Laura Forbes, 14 News.
A pre-dawn fire destroyed 4 homes in Sturgis, Kentucky. It started around 2 this morning in the area of 10th and Washington. Officials say 3 of the homes were vacant, including the one where the fire started. Investigators are calling these fires suspicious. Laura Forbes reports.
Nothing but rubble remains of 4 houses in Sturgis. Only one was occupied and the family made it out safely. Crews from about 8 fire departments were brought in to battle the flames, but the high winds made fighting them difficult. The fire started in this middle house and quickly spread to houses on either side. Then the winds were so bad that it actually caught another house on fire across the street.
It was just covering my truck. That's all I could see was hot embers. They was all over that house, and this house, and we thought this one was fixing to catch on fire.
So did the people who lived there. Neighbors sat on their front porches watching as crews put out the last hot spots, thankful that, other than some heat damage, their homes were intact.
We had the old shingle roof on it. It was caught on fire. We had that roof put on last year.
Now them cinders coming on my roof, and if it wasn't, for the firemen and the good Lord, my house would probably been next.
Assistant Chief Russellberg says that was their first priority when they arrived.
It's better to save a house that's not burnt than one that's was already on the ground.
While one family tries to pick up the pieces, others say they're thankful the situation wasn't even worse. In Sturgis, Laura Forbes, 14 News.